Good morning, community. Thank you for joining me for another Keeping It Real with Dr. Anita. I am your host, Dr. Anita Polite Wilson, C-Suite Trusted Advisor and Board Director, helping C-Suite leaders reframe diversity conversations from difficult to different. Today on my Real Conversations from the C-Suite, I am so excited to be joined by Monica Pleasant, the HR Director at Medtronic and President of the Orange County NHRA and member of the DEI Council. Monica, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here.
So I want to jump right into where we're going to be going in October, actually. And because you and I are both members of the LA and Orange County NHRA DEI Council, you are going to be one of our best practice leaders for October NHRA webinar, which is going to be on Wednesday, October 26th, everyone, from 4 to 5:30. And you can go to NHRALosAngeles.org and click the DEI link at the top in the center to get more information. So Monica, I want to know, as the president of the Orange County NHRA, how are you positioning this upcoming conference and what you're going to be sharing with us, which I'll get into later on with our guests?
Yes, thanks for asking. So what I would like to share with the audience is some practical tips, practical things that they could be doing to help foster belonging within their respective organizations. I know when I go to learning events, I hear a lot of great concepts and theories, but I personally am always hungry to hear what things have organizations implemented that are great practices that they saw results on. So hoping to share with the audience some things that I've done, things I've observed that can really drive results in the organization.
I think that this is really going to be helpful because in my work, I keep hearing the echoing of people, especially people who have been in the workforce for a little while. They are saying, I want to do the right thing, but I'm afraid I might say the wrong thing. And I'm hearing some people saying it's just easier to retire. So I'm hoping that what you're talking about are ways that we can encourage people from people that we need in the workplace from retiring early unnecessarily. How can you help us help them to become more comfortable with some of the practices that really, again, reinforce the notion that this isn't difficult, but it might be different?
Yeah. I mean, one of the ways to do that is the growth mindset, helping people understand, it's really important for us to be curious, be open-minded to different ways of doing things. That what worked in the past, what got us to where we are today, isn't going to work in the future. And we've got to be open-minded to new ways of doing things to continue to evolve and be successful. So just continuing to help people see the importance of that, and hopefully over time they'll see that value and want to make some changes and shifts as well to better interact and work together with people of different kinds.
And I know we're going to talk more about the growth mindset a little later in the conversation. What is it that you want to present to folks that maybe are not necessarily members of the NHRA or any DEI council to help them understand the importance for them right where they are in the level that they serve within an organization?
Well, one of the things I want to emphasize is the fact that no matter what function a leader works in an organization, they all play a critical role of managing talent. So, it used to be known as it's an HR responsibility to attract, to engage, to retain the talent, but it's every people leader's responsibility to do that. And so that's something that I definitely want to emphasize with this community, is how each and every one of the leaders plays a very critical role in making sure that their talent is engaged and empowered to do the work that needs to be done in the organization.
How can leaders that don't necessarily have this as top of mind, the way you and I might have as a result of our function, how can we encourage that to be something that is not an addition to their work, but actually integrated into what they're already doing as leaders of people? Because when you think about being a leader of people, you need to lead everyone on your team, not just the people that look like you. And oh, by the way, let's just say if we're going to meet you where you are, and initially it's about you hitting your numbers, what if the best person on your team who hits the numbers consistently doesn't look like you? If you don't pay them attention, if you don't interact with them in terms of human affirming behaviors, yeah, they're going to feel some kind of way, but who's that ultimately hurting in the long run? That's hurting you as their leader. So why do we still see this as leaders as this is an add-on to my work versus something that I'm integrating to enhance my leadership, which is something that we train people and encourage them to read about and learn about on their own as part of professional development? Why do some leaders still see that as an either or type of thing?
There's leaders that have the mindset that of the type of environment that they kind of grew up in the workplace, and they were never treated that way. Therefore, as a leader, I'm not going to treat you, that way. I'm going to treat you the way I was treated.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So like that's an obstacle or a shift in mindset that needs to happen, because it tends to lead to not so productive outcomes and
now we're
behaviors.
talking about the way people were conditioned themselves.
Yes.
It just carries forth.
Yes.
And it kind of leads into the discussion that we're going to have later. And I'm really trying hard for us not to jump ahead, but it leads into that growth mindset that says, well, just because this is the way leadership was when I was coming through the ranks, and just because this is the way I was conditioned, doesn't mean that it's the best way to lead people.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, but I love where we were going with that conversation of, how people were conditioned, and how, we really have to get people more comfortable with the concepts of what got us to where we are today is not going to help us with the future. And especially with the pandemic, it's really brought to life, the importance of, caring about the whole person, not just the individual as the professional who's, contributing work-wise, but we really need to care about the whole person, which is a big shift from how, leadership used to be back in the day.
It's a huge shift. It's a huge shift. And I think you're on to answering the question that I had posed. First of all, when you talk about what came to mind was the book that says, what got you here won't get you there. I can't remember who the author was, so I don't want to misquote, but the title of the book, Community, is What Got You Here Won't Get You There. And it goes to what Monica is saying about the fact that these days, we really do have to think about the whole person coming to work, not just the person that's providing the service. And that's what's going to make the difference. That's where human affirming behaviors are necessary to make everyone on your team feel valued, feel included, and lead to a sense of belonging. I think you're onto something right there, Monica. The mind shift is leading the whole person, not just the person who's fulfilling a function or a role. Mm-hmm. I can see already that as the president of the Orange County NHRA, you are going to bring so much to the table. I appreciate the way this conversation has started so far. Community, please stay with us and come back next week when I continue my conversation with Monica Pleasant, the HR director at Medtronic and the president of Orange County NHRA. If you're interested in listening to this podcast again or any of my previous podcasts, by now you know where to find me, www.dranita.com. And at the top in the center, you want to click the button that says Keeping It Real with Dr. Anita. You can listen to this podcast or any of my previous podcasts. Please like and share and give me some feedback. I want to know what you want to hear. Until next time, this is Dr. Anita reminding you to stay blessed and keep it real. Good morning, community. Thank you for joining me for another Keeping It Real with Dr. Anita. I am your host, Dr. Anita Polite Wilson. And today I'm so excited to have me, to be, okay, see, and this is why I love live recordings. All right, cut. We're going to start this over again. Good morning, community. This is Dr. Anita, and thank you for joining me for another Keeping It Real program. I am so excited to be hosting Ms. Monica Pleasant on another Keeping It Real from the C-Suite with Dr. Anita, and that's still not right, so we're going to try one more time. All right. Good morning, community. Welcome back, and thank you for joining me for another Keeping It Real with Dr. Anita. I am your host, Dr. Anita Polite Wilson, and on... All right. What is this? Take 4? All right. Okay.